Hey everyone, you know what time it is. It is that great time where we get to discuss great design resources made by our brothers and sisters in the industry, and I recommend some great ones for you. Hey everyone, I hope you're well, playing on and making the games that you all love. You're joining me, your host, Max Pears, and I'm thrilled to be chatting to you, whether it be morning, afternoon, or night. I said it's great just to be chatting with you all, and I hope that you're all safe and all well in these, again, ever strange and ever growingly strange times. So yeah, like I say, I hope everyone that you know and you love and yourselves are all safe people. Now, just as a quick side note from the more seriousness of everyone being safe, I had a horrible experience where I ripped my trousers today. And if that isn't a sign of me putting on that isolation weight, I don't know what else is. So I need to get myself back into shape and really get at it. Do you know what it is I've been working out relatively all right. Like I go for runs in the mornings, do a workout in the afternoon. But it's that diet, guys. Honestly, you know, when we first heard about Corona, and this is me just making a joke about it, obviously to treat it with the utmost seriousness, I thought, you know what, if I'm going to die, I'm going to go out eating the things that I love. And then I never got infected. Well, not that I'm aware of. And I'm just like, damn it. I need to get myself into being tip-top shape. So yes, mess up on my part there, everyone. But yeah, anyway, we're going to go through some great design resources that I have been checking out, which I recommend to you. And after all, I do not know everything, so we get to reference those who have made great design references and get to learn from their stories and their brains and their knowledge, which is always fascinating. Like all the other essential reading episodes, all of these will be available down below in the descriptions, the links. So if you want to actually go check these out, they're all down below for all of you amazing peeps. So let's go into it. Lesson number 1. This is coming to us from a book. I recently bought a Kindle to help pass the time, and also just a way for me to read more books, because recently I don't feel that I have been taking advantage of this medium as much, and I want to start reading more and not being consumed by videos as much. So one of the first ones that I read, and the one that I'm going to recommend to you all firstly, is that called Surviving the Indie Apocalypse. This is quite a short book, but it's a really good one, and it's one that I definitely did enjoy. I'll put a link to it, like I said, down in the description below. It's about a perspective from an indie developer who's teaching you different elements that goes into making an indie game, whether that be marketing or finance, setting up your business, how to expose your game, all of these little elements that we necessarily don't think of, because to us as developers, the main focus is obviously making the game. So yes, I think that one was a very interesting one because there's so much to think about. It doesn't go into the minute details that maybe I would have liked a bit more, but it definitely brings awareness to different topics that we might not have been, so thoughtful of before reading this. So if you are thinking of going indie, or maybe you are indie yourself, I do recommend checking out this book because I do think there's some useful tips. Some you might know, some you might, but like I said, it is a small book and a really enjoyable one that I really did enjoy. So yeah, go check out that. I like the layout of the book as well. Very nicely done to it. The second resource will be another book, and it's called Independent by Design, Art and Stories of Indie Games, which, building on the book we just mentioned previously, it's talking to indie developers. These are more so the successful cases, from those who've made Rogue Legacy to Devolver Digital, publishing them, DayZ, all of these, and more. They've interviewed the designers, what was their process like, how did they come up with their ideas, and just breaking down different elements that comes with not only making the indie games, but also the success of these indie games, and the pressure that sometimes comes after it. And I think that's a really interesting one. And also just interview these devs, because one of the things that I always think is so interesting, and I've mentioned it in multiple videos and resources, especially that I've seen or consumed about in development is this whole aspect of giving up your kind of stability of life. You've got the freedom now. But this is actually a really good point. The interview, the woman, and sorry I've forgotten her name, who created the Game Jam train. For those who don't know, basically you go on a train from Chicago all the way to San Francisco just before GDC, and by the time you arrive, it's around about GDC week, and you're all trying to make a game before you divide yourself into different teams. You go with people you don't know, so you've got different nationalities all around the world, sometimes just designing games on this train, and you've got to design it before you reach the end. And she brought up this great point on how she went to indie and freelance, but found herself just leaving work be. She was constantly putting it off, shall we say, and then she came up with a great design challenge, design a game a week, created this. And it's such a fascinating one on how she has trained herself from originally going to having this freedom but free time and this no pressure and / no structure, to then going on to, like I said, making that game jam, but also making sure that she designs a game every week, which I can only imagine the absolute stress that comes to making a game every week. But again, just a fascinating point, and just fascinating stories from all of these developers who have taken a different path, especially to myself. And that's why I always think it's amazing, is hearing their stories. So if you want something a bit more in depth from the previous resource, I think this one is the one for you. Now moving on to resource numero 3. This one is going to be a YouTube video by the Design Doc. If you have heard my recommendations before, his channel is one that I really do enjoy. And this one's a breakdown on what is the point of status effects. And the status effects is that you can get, primarily you find in RPGs, but other games do adopt them, whether that be being stunned, put to sleep, poisoned, all of these elements that, like I said, can really have an effect on the enemy as well as the player, and can I've put them at a disadvantage. And breaking down how this is important, whether it be in the strategy, how you give feedback on this. And I think it's a great video, because I said this is mainly can be found in that of the RPG genre, but is now pushing out to more. And I think if you are looking into making an RPG, or even more, should we say, choices that provide different sort of tactical plays from that of the player, I do recommend looking at this. Just a nice breakdown, always good visuals, and I think it's such an interesting topic as well. It wouldn't have been one that I thought about, and I think that again it's just a fascinating one to listen about and always learn from.
At Level Design Lobby, we believe everybody has a story to tell. Hobbyist or student, freelancer or veteran, we made it our mission to unite those who share our passion for creating and developing great games. Thanks to our generous Patreon backers, we've been able to do just that. So if you've already pledged your support, thank you. If not, you too can ensure the future of Level Design Lobby, helping us to create even more exciting content, collaborations, interviews, and much more. With awesome perks and rewards, whether you're a seasoned professional or just getting started, you're sure to find something for you. Want to share tips, tricks, and advice with passionate, like-minded developers? Our awesome community Discord has you covered. Fancy practicing your level design, creating strong portfolio content, and having fun? Then try our level design weekends. Or perhaps you want to individually discuss your work, hone your skills, or level up your career? Then consider our one-on-one mentorships. If you share our vision, then go to patreon.com/Level Design Lobby for more information and to pledge your support. Thank you.
The fourth recommendation is that from NoClip. It's a recent one they've done now. It's a little bit older, but it was that on the story of Transistor from Supergiant Games, and how they went from learning from Bastion to then making Transistor, which is a great game. I really do enjoy that. I've just recently picked it back up again for my Switch. I had it on PC, but got it again. And yeah, just as a quick side note, Bioshock has just, I think, come out while I'm recording this for the Switch, and I'm definitely tempted to pick that up again. But damn it, too many games that are coming onto my Switch, and I don't even have time. I need to complete Final Fantasy VII, Last of Us is coming out, and I got a whole backlog. So yes, I am very much torn about it. Yeah. Anyway, back to the actual topic. Transistor, and breaking down their story on how they learned so much from Bastion, but decided not to use the knowledge. And that was the most fascinating part of this story, this documentary, was because they didn't want to be a one-hit wonder. They weren't trying to play it safe with, say, doing Bastion 2. And I'm not saying, and even they say it, like, not everything they learned from Bastion could have been applicable to Transistor, but just seeing, like, why they chose against that and how that came round and the process that eventually came round to help them. Just fascinating to me. Again, I think this one seems to be a very indie-heavy trend, but I just like this on the pressure, right, of you finally release that of a successful indie game. You're finally in the clear as a company to go through and make more. As in, make more games. You've got the funds to do so. And then the pressure, the internal pressure, I think, of, okay, we made a good game, but how do we surpass that or just go different to it, not necessarily even to surpass it? Again, I loved it. I am a fan of the game. I'm a fan of that studio. I think what they've done, and I've listened to a fair few interviews, how it all came to be put together. Yeah, just so inspiring. I really have enjoyed their story. And it's the in-depth design choices that really fascinate me for this one. So yes, do check that out. NoClip are always bringing out amazing videos. Really a fan of them. Now, the final one is going to be the design of Gears 5 open world. And I put quotations around open world because they, as the designers, don't even call it an open world. It's more like hub spaces. I've not played Gears 5. I'll be picking it up soon because I do want to play it. And everything I've heard is good. But it was an interview on how they've decided to obviously open up the levels of Gears and how they are interconnected. And saying how they've tried to not necessarily make it an open world, but to try and make sure that there is, how do I say it, a different style of level to it, and that their style isn't an open world, like I said. So what does that mean? How do they define that? What design rules do they take from the open world genre, and which other ones do they cut in order to make it feel like it is their own thought process, their own design for this special and particular situation? And yeah, I really did enjoy this one. It was fascinating. I love to hear from more and more developers and to hear their process, because I don't think, especially when you're in AAA, you don't get to talk about this as much. So to hear, again, their opinions, their expertise, the choice from going from, the Gears franchise, these more linear levels, to where they are now, with also I forgot what the vehicle was called, I think it was the glider, and how that helps maneuver and how they chose not to put combat with that when originally they were thinking of it. So again, the thought processes they add and cut away, always fascinating. Always fascinating to me. So yes, these are the 5 that I recommend. So a quick sum up for those of you who want to remember what I actually spoke about. Number 1 is called Surviving the Indie Apocalypse, tips and tricks on what you should think about and consider when you're designing your indie game. The second one is another book, Independent by Design, Art and Stories of Indie Games, interviewing indie developers, their thought process and their design choices as they made their indie games. The third one is What is the Point of Status Effects, which is a video on YouTube talking about status effects, their impacts, their design, all of these. The fourth one is the Transistor story, breaking down the studio's decisions when they're making Transistor. And the final one is the design of Gears of War 5's open world levels. Now, before we do wrap things up, I do want to say that I have a bit of an announcement. That the book that I've been working on, I've been teasing. If you follow me on Twitter, you will have seen it. It is coming out this month in June. I haven't got a specific date yet just because we're finalizing certain elements, but everything is looking like it is coming out this month. So I'm really excited for it. If you want to know more about it, please follow me on Twitter, because that is where you will find out more, which is @MaxPairs. So I'm just excited. Honestly, team, it is a exciting time. It's been a stressful one in some regards, trying to juggle all these projects, the podcast work, the personal level, as well as the book. but I am so happy with what we've done, and I couldn't be more proud about it. It's going to be called, I guess the first time I'm unveiling the title actually, so drum roll, it is going to be called Let's Design Combat, a level design series. So like I said, I do intend to make a series, probably 3 books in total, maybe more. Let's see how we do in sales. But this one, Outside one, I don't think it's a topic that's necessarily touched upon so much. And just some great tips that I have learned and wish I knew back when I was a student and a junior and even early stages of intermediate that helped to make my combat levels pop and make them more memorable. So if that's what you're interested in, then this book is definitely for you. There's going to be a physical copy and an ebook copy. We finally found a publisher to go with, so we're very excited. Well, let me phrase that. We're self-publishing, but we found someone who's going to do the printing, shall I say. That's what I meant to say. So yes, this has all been funded by the lovely people on Patreon, as well as me putting in my own money to make this. So I am, like I said, very proud of it. Writing a book was never something I thought I would do. And it's the kind words of all of you, people asking and messaging me on Twitter or on Discord, asking for a book. And I think we've delivered, honestly. For those of you who have been on my Discord channel, you will have seen updated progress shots. I've asked you in terms of what you think's fair in pricing, all of these to help us just get a little bit further and also keep an open communication. So I'm, like I said, very excited. The page count is round about, what was it? It's about just shy of 90 pages in total, just pushing around there. And just excited. Honestly, it's just final touches. We're getting the cover art sorted now. The text, just, spell checking. So it's exciting, honestly. So if you are looking for that, keep an eye out. I'll be tweeting about this. I'm sure I'll be putting links down in the description. Not necessarily this video, but the ones coming up. I'm just excited, honestly. So I hope you're all excited too. Okay, everyone, that wraps things up. So as I mentioned, if you want to find out more about level design, come follow me on Twitter @MaxPairs. If you want to support the podcast and help make sure that we keep this ever growing, then please do head over to patreon.com/level design lobby. And if you want to email in with any questions, then please do so at leveldesignlobby@gmail.com. Thank you all so much, and I'll catch you all next time.